Hi, Talon. Hello, Sarah. It's nice to see you. Welcome in. I think I beat all of my spelling class attendees. Here they come. Hello, Nicola, Julie, Blair. Beverly, it's nice to see you. Welcome, everybody. I apologize for being just a touch late today. Our spelling class, we were learning something kind of crazy. And I had to condense all of that information into our 30-minute class, and we did go a minute over, so thank you for your patience, but I can always take you a little over right now as well. All right, so let's start you with counting some sounds. Would you please count how many sounds are in the word engrave? Engrave. We're counting the sounds in engrave if you're just joining us. Thank you, Blair. Engrave. We're counting the sounds in engrave. Okay, put that in the Q&A for me. Let's see what we're getting. Several sixes, and I'm hoping it's 6. Wow, every single person has put 6 so far. I'm really hoping it's 6 because I wanted to make sure that you could separate the from the n at the beginning. So let's see if there's 6. I hope so, because if all of you could do that, oh, that makes me so happy. So in engrave we have n, g, a, v. Well done. Standing ovation. Gorgeous. Well done. Thank you for separating the from the n. Engrave. 6 sounds. Here is how it is spelled. That E at the end is doing 2 jobs. The first job is making sure that that A can make its long sound. The second job is preventing the V from being at the end. Words are not allowed to end in a V. That's a spelling class rule. So if you are spelling a word that ends with a V, you must have an E after it. All right, next word. Count the sounds in sailor. Sailor. If you just joined us, we are counting the sounds in sailor. Nice. Good. Yeah. You're like, is there 4? Is there only 4 in sailor? Yep, there's 4. Here they are. In sailor we have S, A, L, R. You guys are getting so good at this. This is how it's spelled. So even though it has several letters, there's only 4 sounds because those letters are working together. The AI is working together to say A. AI is a grapheme that says A. It follows the tab 2 rule. And that OR at the end is spelling the sound. Usually when you have an sound at the end, you are going to spell it with an ER. But sometimes you'll see it spelled with an OR, and that is because I'm looking for an example here in my cards that I've made. Here's one. OR makes the sound when it's at the end of a multisyllable word. It just changes to its unstressed sound, which is I'm going to go through these cards with you one day, maybe at the end of the year. But here are some kind of other examples of, hopefully, is that backwards? Does that look backwards to you? Or are the letters facing the right way? Let me ask you this question so I know what the yes answer is for. Can you read this, or does it? So my answer is, can you read it? My question is, okay. So if you'll notice here, grammar, a lot of people think that it's spelled with an ER, but it's actually spelled with an AR. That AR follows the same rule as OR. When they're at the very end, they can change and say to change the sound. Here's another example, familiar. A lot of people think that it's but it's not. It's an AR that's unstressed at the end. AR and OR at the end can say That's what's happening there. Okay, count one more. Authenticity. 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 We're counting the sounds in authenticity. I'm getting an assortment of answers right now. Anywhere from 6 to 12 in authenticity. Okay, let's count. In authenticity, we have A, F, E, T, I, S, I, T, E. 10. One more time, do it with me. A, F, E, T, I, S, I, T, E. 10 sounds. Here's how they're spelled so you can see them. That AU says aw. That EN might have been hard to separate, but we have to. Si might have been hard to separate. T at the end, that would have been hard to separate those sounds, but we have to be able to separate them so that the letters in the word make sense when we're reading. Okay, try this. 3 more questions. Say the word blow. Say the word blow. Now add a sound. Add an E after the B. You're like, huh? I can see your face, even though I can't see it. It's in my imagination. So say blow, but add an E after the B. Does she want bellow? Yeah, I want bellow. So B, L, O. If we add an E right here, it's B, E, L, O. Bellow. Blow to bellow. How was that one? Easy, medium, or hard? Put an EM or H. Oh, you missed the Y at the end. Yeah, you're not the only one. Okay, holy smokes, my friends. Almost every single one of you put an H. All right, I'm gonna bring it down just a notch here. Let's omit a sound. Say the word hammer. Say hammer. Now say it without the So don't let your lips come apart. They have to stay with the So say hammer and then omit, leave off the The word is ham, right? Hammer without the is ham, and your lips should stay closed. The correct sound for M is Don't let your jaw drop or let any other sounds come in. Was that one easier? Easy, medium, or hard for that one? You're welcome. Easies and mediums for that one, mostly. Okay, last one, and then we're going to get learning. You're going to change a sound. Now, I want you to change. Say the word rocket. Rocket. Now change the A to an A. Say rocket and then change the A to an A. Did you get racket? So rocket, when you change the A to an A, is racket. Rocket, racket. Easy, medium, or hard? Put an EM or H in there. Q&A for me. Good. All right. Do you feel warmed up? You should feel warmed up. I always say, and I try not to, and I always find myself saying it, that is a warm-up. And then we have one more, and then we're going to get to our learning. But I kind of kick myself every time I say either one of those things because that warm-up is hard. It's the hardest part of reading, and it's the hardest part of spelling, is being able to isolate sounds. If it were easier, then reading and spelling would be a lot easier. But that's why we do it. When it becomes easier, then reading and spelling become easier because we read sounds. We spell sounds. We can't do either of those until we can hear what we're supposed to be reading and spelling. That's why we do that, and it is not easy. Okay, my friends, today I'm excited to teach you this lesson. I've been waiting for this all year. I'm teaching you the 3 sounds of ed, the suffix ed. So ed is a suffix, a word part that comes at the end of a base word, and it means past tense. Makes a base word happen in the past. Play is present, played, past. Run, running, that's a bad example because it's ran. Jump is in the present, jumping is in the present, jumped is in the past. So ed, suffix ed, makes something happen in the past. It's a vowel suffix because it starts with a vowel. It has 3 sounds. And I like this lesson because when we're reading, you don't have to guess or wonder which sound it's going to make. All you have to do is look at the letter before it and you'll know 100% what sound that ed is going to make. Its 3 sounds are, it can sound like a T, it can sound like a D, or it can sound like an ed. I'll write that down. First sound is a T, second sound is a D, third sound is an ed. Okay, here's the magic sauce. It's going to sound like a T if. So let me back up just a little bit because I need to give you some background knowledge for the new knowledge to sit on top of. The sound for T, T, is a voiceless sound, meaning there is no vocal cords being used. It's only air. It's just a spitting sound. T, T. It's voiceless. So if you're adding an ed to the end of a base word and that last letter is also voiceless, then it's going to make its voiceless sound and say it. Look at the example. Jumped. What's the last letter before you added the ed? It's a P. P is a voiceless sound. It's only air. P. So the ed is going to make its voiceless sound. T. That's why that word is jumped, or hopped, or skipped. Let's do one that's different than a P. How about this one? Dressed. Dressed. That S, it's voiceless, right? Only air. S. So that ed is going to make its voiceless sound, which sounds like a T. T. Dressed. Yeah? Pretty cool, right? All right, number 2. It's going to sound like a D. D is a voiced sound. So your vocal cords are used. You can feel them vibrating when you pronounce it if you just put your fingers on your voice box. D, D. It's a vibrating sound. So its ed is going to make its vibrating sound or its voiced sound. We call it voiced. If the sound before it is also voiced. So if that last letter of the base word is a voiced sound, then it's going to make its voiced sound. Here are some examples. Stayed. That AY, A, it's voiced. You can feel the vibrations in your vocal cords. So that ed is going to make its voiced sound and sound like a D. D. Stayed. Stayed. Cried. The last sound in cry, I. By the way, just a fun fact. All vowel sounds are voiced. So if the base word ends with a vowel sound, you know that that ed is going to make its D sound and sound like its voiced sound. Cried, because the I is voiced. You can hear it. Vocal cords are used. So you're going to hear the ed. Its D sound is going to be used. Cried. Played. Snowed. Yeah? Cool so far, right? So far so good. We only have one more sound, and this one's going to put the icing on the cake. You're just going to stand up and you're going to say, hallelujah, this is amazing. This is the best thing I've learned all week. All right, are you ready? So it's going to make its third sound, which is ed. It's going to sound like ed if the last letter of the base word is a T or a D. Because if it's a T and you're adding an ed, that T is voiceless. So if the ed made its voiceless sound, it would sound like a T and you wouldn't be able to hear anything at all. It would just be two T sounds connected to each other. So you have to have the ed. Here's an example. Let me think of a word that ends with a T. Plate. So if we want to make it plated, if we are going to add, so we dropped the E, added an ed. If that ed just said t, then it would just sound like plate, t, right? So if the base word ends with a T or a D, then it's going to say ed, plated. A T, and word that ends with a T. I have none. I have none. If you have some, go ahead and throw them in the Q&A if you can think of a word that ends with a T, a base word. But the same goes with a D. So if the word ends with a D, it's not going to, even though it's voiced, it's not going to make its voiced sound because the voiced sound of ed is a D. And if those two Ds are next to each other, you're not going to be able to hear that there's anything after it. I said that really fast, but I think you followed along. So if a word ends with a T or a D, it's going to sound like ed. Like this word. Loaded. That ed is going to sound like ed because that base word ended with a D. Plated, loaded. All right, so those are a bunch of seeds. Here is how we are going to sprinkle those. A little deeper into the soil now. I'm going to repeat it a second time. Then we're going to practice it a little bit. So ed has three sounds. Suffix ed means past tense. It has three sounds. It can sound like a t, a d, or an ed. It'll sound like a t, its voiceless sound, if the sound before it is also voiceless. It'll sound like a d, if the sound of its voiced sound, if the sound before it is also voiced. And it will sound like an ed, if the letter before it was a T or a D. Yeah? The seeds sunk a little deeper into your brain soil, didn't it? Let's practice and get those even deeper. How excited are you? Who's shouting hallelujah? Who is shouting hallelujah? Oh, traded. That's a good one. That's a good one too, Danielle. All right, let's practice up here. I am going to do the first one with you. So here we have an EE that says E, follows the tap 2 rule. Here we have an ED, that follows a voiced sound, so it's going to sound like a D. So we have N, E, M, D. Named, named. Try yours. Okay, your EE says E. Your ED is going to say D because this is a voiced sound. Your vocal cords are used. You can feel that on the N. So our sounds are P, E, N, D. Preened, preened. Next. This E is going to say because of the tap 2 rule, 2 consonants after it. This ED is going to sound like a T because the F is a voiceless sound. So we have b, r, e, f, t. Breft. Breft. What would yours say over here? Okay, so this E is going to say because there are two consonants after it. ED, in this case, is going to sound like a T because an S is a voiceless sound. So we have f, l, e, s, t. Flest. Flest. How are you doing on the first two? How many of those two did you get without me? Please put that in the Q&A. How many out of 2? Okay. All right. Nice job, my friends. Number 3. This A is going to say A because there's a vowel 1 or 2 doors down. This ED is going to sound like an ed because there's a T or a D before it. So we have g, l, a, t, ed. Glated. Glated. Try yours. This U is going to make its long U sound and say oo. ED is going to sound like ed because it follows a T or a D. So we have b, l, oo, t, ed. Bluted. 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 Number 4. This O is going to say O because there's a vowel 1 or 2 doors down. This O is going to say a because the next 2 letters are consonants. This ED is going to sound like a D because the letter before it is voiced. So we have p, l, o, t, a, n, d. Remember, we're not dotting letters, we're dotting sounds. So pull, plow, ploat, plota, plotan, plotand, plotand. Go ahead and try yours. There might be a D. There might be just a heads up. There might be a D that's going to try to sneak in right here after the N. Your subconscious might want to throw this out as dead at the end. So be careful that you don't hear the word dead at the end. It goes from the N to the D. So this E is going to say E because there is a vowel 1 or 2 doors down. This O is going to say ah because the next 2 letters are consonants. ED sounds like D when it comes after a voiced sound. Don't you love that you know what I'm talking about now? That's complicated stuff, and you guys are like, I got it, keep going. So our sounds are L, E, F, A, N, D. Leafond. Leafond. It might have been tempting to say leafonded. Leafonded. And a D might have snuck in right there. But it's actually just leafond. Leafond. Okay, out of these 2, how many did you get correct without me? Did you get bluted and leafond? Good, Rowan. Nice, Beverly. Okay, thank you. Let's do the last 2. This O is going to say ah. I'm not going to tell you what this ED is going to say. I'm going to let you figure it out on your own. Go ahead and try it. this O is going to say ah because of the tap 2 rule. ED after a voiceless sound like F, or if it's just air, is going to make its voiceless sound and sound like a T. So our sounds are k, ah, f, t, croft, croft. Okay, what about this one? Go ahead and try it. I'll let you figure out the sound of the ED. Okay, so this side is going to say I because of those 2 consonants. ED after a voiceless sound like an SH is going to make its voiceless sound and sound like a T. So we have P, L, I, sh, t, plished, plished. That's not easy to say with a SHT at the end. It's kind of hard. Plished. And last one. Here we have an OA that says O. Figure out what that D is going to say, and then try to read it. So did you remember that ED after a D or a T sounds like an ED, sounds like ed? So we have, if you didn't, you remember now, right? You're like, oh yeah. So that's good. As long as you remember, it kind of clicks into your memory bank, then it's adding up. All of these little knowledge nuggets are adding up. So we have G, L, O, D, E, D. Gloated. Gloated. It's like loaded, but with a G. Gloated. All right, try this last one. Get the R. It might want to slip out. Okay, so this AI is going to say A. It follows the tap 2 rule. AI is a grapheme that says A, just like OA is a grapheme that says O. This ED is going to say ed because it comes after a T or a D. So it can't sound like either the T or the D. It has to sound like ed. So we have S, P, R, A, T, E, D. Sprated. Sprated. I have a feeling you did great on that. Let me know out of these last 2, how many did you get without me? Wow, nice. Okay, good job, you guys. So here it is again in a nutshell. So I've given you the knowledge seeds. We've planted them. We've watered them. They're starting to sprout a little bit. So now that I say it one more time, they're going to start growing and living on their own, and you're going to be able to teach this to somebody else. So here it is. This is the 3 sounds of the suffix ed that means past tense. It can sound like a T if it follows a voiceless sound. It can sound like a D if it follows a voiced sound. And it can sound like an ED if it follows a T or a D. Do you feel like you know that now? Isn't that amazing? Isn't that 30 minutes well spent? Congratulations on your new knowledge. It is yours to keep, my friends. And there's more. There's more. I will see you back here on Wednesday to learn even more. Bye, everybody.